Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Up next on Another View, leadership consultant, coach, and licensed clinical therapist, Cherise Josie. Cherise specializes in helping professional women navigate toxic, draining, and counterproductive workplace environments in order to reclaim both professional and personal balance. But first, we pay tribute to two lives well lived: internationally renowned ballerina Lorraine Graves and journalist, ombudsman, mentor, and friend Marvin Leon Lake. It's all coming up next on Another View, right after this national, regional, and local news from NPR and WHRO News.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. We begin today's program by honoring two local African-American pioneers who've recently passed away. Ballerina Lorraine Graves passed away on March 21st. The Norfolk native was 66 years old. Lorraine was a principal classical ballet dancer with the Dance Theater of Harlem for 2 decades and performed all over the world. When she retired, she turned her attention to the youth of Hampton Roads, teaching ballet at the Governor's School for the Arts for 20 years. Lorraine is survived by her brother, Tommy Graves III, owner of Graves Funeral Home in Norfolk, and sister-in-law, Virginia State Senator Angela Williams Graves, and a host of family and friends. And this week, the Hampton Roads journalism community said goodbye to a remarkable print journalist, mentor, and friend, Marvin Leon Lake. Lisa Godley has a tribute.
Marvin Lake was a career journalist. His interest in the field of journalism dating back to junior high school when he was business manager of the Jaycox Journal. His passion for journalism continued at Booker T. Washington High School, where he shined as editor of the student newspaper. After college, Marvin spent 2 years in the Army producing the Base newspaper. Marvin Lake would go on to become the Virginian Pilot's first African-American reporter and editor. During his 41 years at the Virginian Pilot, he also served as the Pilot's newsroom recruitment director, Sunday commentary editor, director of Landmark's Minority Training Program, summer internship program, as well as the Pilot's Minority Journalism Workshop for high school students. His work as a reporter and editor netted him numerous awards and accolades, including an Excel Award from Hampton Roads Black Media Professionals for his editorial titled Overdue Restitution, which looked at a state scholarship program for people adversely impacted by massive resistance. Marvin Lake was a founding member of Hampton Roads Black Media Professionals and served as the organization's president from 2001 until 2003. Marvin taught as an adjunct professor at his alma mater, Norfolk State University. He also taught a multiculturalism course at Hampton University. In addition to his many contributions to journalism, Marvin Lake served his community, taking on such roles as director of the Virginia Coalition for Open Government, project director for the City of Norfolk's 50th anniversary of the End of Massive Resistance commemoration, president of the Crispus Attucks Cultural Center Incorporated, and longtime chair of the 200-plus Men Incorporated Scholars Breakfast, honoring African American male high school graduates with a 3.0 or higher GPA. His dedication to the field of journalism, his community, and the numerous lives he touched along the way will not be forgotten. Marvin Lake passed away peacefully at his home on Thursday, March 27th. The love of his life and wife of 41 years, Ruby, was by his side. Marvin Lake was 80 years old. For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
And on behalf of the staff of Another View, we extend our sincere condolences to both the Graves and the Lake families on the loss of their loved ones. We'll be right back. And welcome back. If you're on social media, more than likely you've run across clinical therapist Cherise Josie. She's either sharing advice to help you with your mental health or sharing hilarious stories about her two adorable daughters. Her famous tagline is, "We don't waste time over here." Please welcome back to Another View, Cherise Josie. Hey, Cherise, how you doing?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, I am so glad you're here. So we're going to be talking about a subject that is near and dear to my heart and probably yours and all the other African-American professional women that we know. But so I can hear some people saying, well, everybody faces stress in the workplace. What's the big deal about Black women and stress? But there is a difference, isn't it?
There's absolutely a difference. And Black women in the workplace deal with stress between what people are expected of us and what we expect of ourselves. And then how do we blend that narrative to be successful and to have a life in rhythm. I don't say well-balanced life, but have a life in rhythm. And the strains to communicate that to people who do not understand is challenging, because then we don't want to seem like we're being aggressive or assertive or what's wrong with you? Why are you getting so upset? When we're passionate about our fight, we're passionate about our plight and what we want for ourselves and our families and our communities.
So it's hard enough to rise up that corporate ladder, regardless. And then when you add in the racism and gender issues, then that makes it even tougher, doesn't it?
Makes it extremely tough, extremely tough. When I was moving up in the corporate area, and I remember I was sitting amongst a director, Caucasian woman, and another supervisor, a Caucasian male, and we were reviewing just our frustrations about us being audited, and they expressed their frustrations in a private meeting. And when I did, they said, wait, Cherise, don't get so upset. Don't take it personally. And I asked a simple question. I said, why is it okay for you all to express your frustrations, but when I express my frustrations, I'm taking it personally? And the room got really quiet. It was just the three of us, but the room got really quiet because it was really a reflective question. What is the difference?
Yeah.
Now, of course, I got apologies going down the hallway. Right? But there's this thing where we want to express our frustrations. It comes across differently on the receiving end. And so then in the moment, it's like, well, do I draw back or do I still share what I want to share?
And that whole issue of do you draw back or do you share and so forth, that is such a balance, a walk that we have to take. I remember very vividly a former boss, not HRO, so don't freak out, people. But I've asking me the question, why do you see things from a racial lens? And it's like, that's my lived experience. Absolutely. And I'm bringing to the table. And this is at a time where there were no other people of color but me.
Right.
And I used to try, he and I would have these deep conversations, but I would try to explain to him, imagine if an alien dropped down and they looked around the room, who is going to stand out? Because I'm the only one that looks different in this room. And when I'm expressing myself, because I don't express myself the way that you all do, that doesn't make it wrong.
Right.
But we always have to balance that out also. I know that we when we talked about doing this show, and we were talking about how can we put a personal spin on this, how can we make it relevant? And there is a woman, Dr. Antoinette Candia Bailey, who was the vice president of student affairs at Lincoln University in Missouri. And unfortunately, she took her own life back in January. But she wrote a letter because she talked about the bullying and her experiences that happened at the university. And she says because of the way that the president was treating her and so forth. He took a step back, and while they did their investigation, and then just recently they have put him back into position. But what types of things, in looking at her story, was she going through that would get someone to a place where they just would decide to take that route.
Right. When I was reading her story and people were sharing how excited she was that she got the position.
Yeah.
She's like, I made it. Right. And that's one of the things, like, man, I've made it. I have accomplished something that maybe my parents or my family have not accomplished. And these things that I work for is not in vain. Look how far that I came. Now, my assumption is that she did the best she could in the job.
Yeah.
And it was something really important that I read is that when she got her performance evaluation, that the president gave her these really low marks, and she didn't know that she was not performing up to his satisfaction.
So clearly there weren't any conversations going on prior to the evaluation.
Exactly. And sometimes there's this really hard struggle between who we want to be, what we've accomplished, and what that looks like. And then how does that look like in the eyes of the other person that we're looking at? So in this case, how did the president view her? Mm-hmm. When I'm in a supervisor position, how does my director view me? And if we take a step back a little bit, I always tell people, look at how you want your life to be positioned. And when I was at my lowest in corporate, low staff, starting a new agency, trying to build with hiring systems, but the expectations still didn't change even though I didn't have the staff. And within those 3 years, my friend came to visit me, and she told me later on, she said, I thought you were going to have a nervous breakdown when I came to see you. My thought was I probably already had a nervous breakdown before you came to see me. But I remember I was sitting in my office and I was talking to my director a few times about the stress I was under, and the expectations were very unrealistic. And then I asked myself a question. Why am I expecting this grown woman to take care of me? And I couldn't come up with an answer, which means that I get to take care of myself. Either I'm going to fight these unrealistic expectations, or I'm going to say I'm not going to participate. Mm-hmm. What is it that I want my day to look like? And what is it that I want my day to feel like? When I go home, do I still want to feel like I'm working, or do I want to be like I'm at home? And so I started to take my lunch breaks again. I started to go for walks again. And what didn't get done, it didn't get done. Now I let them know in an email, right? Now you have to cover yourself, right? Right? I'll let them know in an email. But when we come down to managing our stress and expectations, me celebrating my success is for me to do, and not for someone else to co-sign. Yes, Sharice, you're doing a good job. Right. And I had to really reflect on that.
And that's really hard, though, Sharice, though, because don't we always look for other validation?
Yes.
As we're going through. So how do you get to that place where you got to, where you could say, if I'm validating myself,
right,
and if I'm okay with it, then it's okay.
Well, we want to look for validation from people who matter to us.
Yeah.
Sometimes we look for validation from people who we like. You're cool. But when I move on and you move on, are we going to keep in touch? Probably not.
Yeah.
But in the moment, we feel like we need this validation from people that in the long run really doesn't matter to us. Think about when you're in school and all those people who signed your yearbooks. How many of those people keep in touch? Back in the day, right. KIT, right? How many of y'all have y'all called?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
In the moment, it feels so important. These people feel so important to us. But when we look at, especially as adults, when we look at the context of our life and who actually is important to us, who 5 years from now do we want to say, I did a good job? This was a valuable relationship that I had. Will we put the supervisors, director, this president in that line, or that probably won't even come to our mind at all?
Yeah.
And in the moment, it's very hard to see it. And that's why I tell people sometimes we have to step back from the moment and focus on the impact. The moment is going to keep us in circles all the time. The impact is going to promote some change. I don't like the anxiety that I'm under. I don't like the stress. I don't like that I can't sleep. I don't like that my appetite is not where I want it to be, that my health, the impact is going to make us change and stay there. The situation, we can stay in that circle and that debate for a long time. Why aren't you listening to me? Why don't you care about what I'm sharing with you? Why don't you care about my stress? They don't care because they don't care. And sometimes we have to make that okay. It's hard.
Yeah.
Because we think our supervisor needs to mentor us, guide us, and support us. A lot of leaders, I shouldn't say a lot, some leaders don't care about people. They don't care about the impact. They care about the role, the title, and the pay. Some care about the power. None of that involves the people. So then it leaves it up to us to take care of ourselves.
And one other thing, too, now I think about when I became news director, when I first was named news director back in the mid-90s, and that was my career goal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I scraped and did everything, and went through the steps and did everything that I was supposed to do to get there. And I remember very vividly sitting at a red light at Lynn Haven and Virginia Beach Boulevard and saying to myself, oh my God, now what?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I was so focused on striving that when I got to the place, I couldn't enjoy it, because then I was like, what's got to be the next thing? So don't we also need to take some time to just enjoy where we are and relish the accomplishments that we make?
Yes. And that's always going to be a struggle for high achievers, right? High achievers want more. They want to say, I want that next high. I want that next learning thing. I want to try this new thing. And so with high achievers, it's really important to give ourselves grace and say, what are you grateful for? Yeah. And at the end of the day, and really we have to, high achievers, I'm saying we, because I am as well, right? Of being intentional and say, man, I didn't get these things done. But wait a minute, what did you accomplish today?
Yeah, because we don't look at what we do accomplish. We're always looking at what we haven't accomplished. Absolutely. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Are you in the workplace? Are you a leader in the workplace? Are you struggling with being heard? Are you struggling with being respected? And you're trying to figure out what you need to do to be okay mentally yourself. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. One of the things that came up in Dr. Candia Bailey's case also was the whole idea of microaggressions and things. And you and I were talking before the show that even in the articles that you read, this woman had her PhD.
Right.
And even in the articles that are written, they don't refer to her as doctor.
A doctor, yes.
Why do we have to fight so hard to get that respect?
Right. It's so interesting. And when I was reading the article, it was an article that was for her, right? It was advocating for her. I said, but even in these articles advocating for her, we still cannot refer to her as a doctor.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes a lot of times when we get these titles and we do these things and we're like, okay, good, I'm here. But even with that, still not getting the recognition that she desires even after her death. Mm-hmm. And it just spoke volumes, right? And we noticed that. I'm like, wait a minute, I had to go back and look. I'm like, I thought she's a doctor, but no one referred to her as a doctor in any of the articles.
So sometimes it almost makes you feel like, what's the point?
Right.
In that sense, because you're constantly striving. But what are some of the other microaggressions that people face, that particularly Black women face in the workplace?
Not being recognized by their achievements, right? There's a a situation where when I had helped to co-start that new government agency, and I'm working for those 3 years. I say that longer, but the first 3 years was the toughest, right? And I took a step back. People are like, wow, you're so calm and you're doing these things well. And I was like, I had to learn how to take care of myself. And sometimes, and when we try to work harder, right? We're trying to prove that we deserve this position. We're trying to prove we deserve our degree, that I earned it. Let me show you how well I've done. Then people are like, oh, okay, you're looking for me to validate you in some way. And I don't think that that's intentional. I don't think that we're aware that that's what happens a lot of times, right? And I know I was mentoring a leader, and she was calling about, and she was new to leadership, and she was calling about all the difficulties, people not respecting her. And what I heard her say is, I hear that you're trying to earn and prove to people that you deserve that position. Yeah. And I think, so that's something we have to step into the position, knowing full well that we deserve the position. Yes. And it's really challenging to do, especially for high achievers, right? Because we're looking for the next thing. So we never had gratitude for the first thing that we did. right? We know we deserve it. And intellectually and emotionally, those are two different things. And our mind and our heart doesn't always align. It does not always agree. So intellectually, I may know I've achieved this certain level, whether it's my experience or my education level, but I have actually accepted I deserve to be here. I deserve to be at this table. And am I presenting myself in that certain way? Not that we're looking for someone to accept us, but can we challenge them when we don't?
And if we challenge them, then what happens? We're called what? The angry black woman.
Angry black woman. Yes, yes. And this is where, I like to teach emotional intelligence. And one of the funnest things that I really enjoy doing is asking people questions that's the obvious to put them on the spot, right? So in the example I said, well, why would I say this, that I'm angry? And just be quiet. Just one simple question and just wait for an answer. It's very challenging to answer that question. One, because I'm calling you out in your face and I'm looking in your eye and we're all silent and I'm waiting for you to answer the question, right? And there's other opportunities that we can do this. Now, sometimes we'll have leaders that want to use this against us, right? I had a supervisor, I think that she was not a fan of the Black community. I'm just going to say that. And I knew that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't something I was going to challenge on her. But she wanted to address me at one point in time. But I could tell that she lacked the confidence to do so. Her face turned red. Her neck turned red. She could not formulate a sentence. She couldn't do anything. And so I always had a reason for why I was doing something. In the corporate world, it's very important to know why you're doing something and have some checks and balances. So if I'm challenged, I'm able to answer. So I was able to tell her why I did what I did. And she didn't know what to say back because I had your I had points. Everything lined up, and I just sat and waited and asked her, "Is there anything else that you need from me?" And I think this is my assumption. I think she wanted me to get in a debate with her about what she thought I wanted to do, or what I should have done. I chose not to participate in that type of discussion.
So your point is, then you still have power.
Yes.
Because that's the other piece of it. Sometimes when you're in that subordinate boss type relationship, a lot of times you feel like you don't have the power to be able to say anything and that they can just say anything they want to you. And so you have to make sure that you understand that you also have power.
You still have the power, right? And the way that you focus on the power is that you focus on the facts, right? Not an argument of like, this is my factual opinion. No, this is the fact. I did this because of this, because if this happened, this is why I operated in this way. Do you have any questions about the facts?
So you're setting the boundaries in terms of what the conversation is even going to be about. If that's what you're bringing to me, that you have an issue that I did something, then as long as you are factual with it, with your response.
Right. And I think her position is she disagreed with how I did it. I wasn't going to participate in the discussion about whether she agreed or not because that didn't have any outcome on the client, the consumer, and who we're here to serve. If we're in a service profession, it's all subjective.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with you not agreeing. You can do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself because you didn't agree with what I did. But let me tell you why I did this, if this is your question. And this is my thought process of why I did that.
757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call. Give us a call and let us know are you struggling in your workplace and there's some things that you'd like some advice on ways to handle if you've got a difficult situation and how you can also take care of yourself. Cherise, what does being constantly under stress do to the body? What does it do to you, for women in particular?
A lot of medical concerns, right? And sometimes we may think, man, I'm going through a season of life, but it could be an imbalance of our hormones, not sleeping, not concentrating, not remembering things. And those are the impact that we want to focus on I'm in the situation that I'm in. I think some people might find, I can't quit my job. I'm stuck here. And what I would encourage you to do if you're focusing on the impact of anxiety, stress, not sleeping, maybe you're more irritable, don't have time and patience for your family, for your children, is get into some type of community that you know you're not stuck. So one of the things that kind of got me out of, I'm in a government job, is like, who leaves a government job? No one does that, right? Now I took on that mantra, like, no one leaves a government job, but I'm not happy.
I'm going to get my good government job and I'm set.
Right. I need to hang on for 15 more years and I'm good, right? And I went to a training and there was this lady there who was training supervisors on how to understand themselves better in their leadership. And it was a 3-day training. And as I was listening to her, I'm watching her and I thought, I like what she's saying. I'm receiving what she's saying, but I can also do what she's doing. I could do what she's doing. And for the next, I think maybe after the day and a half, I thought that I'm watching her and I'm like, I can see myself in that seat. Now, do I want to do what you want to do? I do, because this is what I'm leaning into. But in the moment, all I needed was for somebody to show me there's other alternatives to do with what you're doing. You have the expertise, you have the knowledge, you have the education. Someone just had to show me something different.
Yeah. So that you could be confident enough to step out there.
Yes.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about stress in the workplace with leadership consultant, coach, and clinical therapist, Sharice Josie. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. What questions do you have for our clinical therapist who is here to help you manage your stress? Because that's what we all have to do. We have to learn how to manage our stress. There are, when you look beyond even the day-to-day, responsibilities of a job, because you already know that you can do that. But then when you put on top of that discrimination, or when you put on top of that somebody thinking you can't do it because you're a woman, or whatever the reason is, and then it's time to go home. How do you disconnect so that you can be okay once you're home? Or do most of us just take it all the way through, for the rest of the day?
Yeah, and a lot of people take it home with us, right? And when we're fighting the day, and this is why I think it's really important that our home be our oasis. And that's whether it's the people that's in our house, or even how we decorate our home, or even how our home smells. When we walk through that door, we need to be able to have that exhale moment. And a lot of that is called boundaries, right? How are we having boundaries in our day? And then are we taking that home? We're taking that home. Something is a disconnect where we're not letting go. And again, it kind of goes back to the impact. And one of my first lessons in boundaries, when I was working with kids, and it was a 16-year-old girl, we had to stop working each other. And I'm in the car, and we're both crying like two fools, knowing that was our last day together. And it told me, I'm like, oh, somewhere down the line, our boundary's been broken. That we're in the car crying.
How do you set boundaries? Because you hear people say that all the time.
Yeah.
But what do you do, and how do you display the boundary so that you're not being hurtful to the other person, but it's really about protecting yourself? Right.
Say what it is that you want. I tell people, when you have boundaries and to keep the relationship, keep everything in the affirmative. So instead of saying what you can't do, say what you can do. Right. So an example is if I'm hiring someone to do a job for me, and someone says, well, Sharice, I can't do it on this day, and I'm going on vacation on this day, and then my child has this on this day. I don't want to hear what you can't do. Tell me what you can do. I'm able to help you on Thursday the 25th at 1 o'clock. Is that good for you? Now I can see, right? Even though I'm busy, I don't need to explain that I'm busy, because now I'm kind of telling the other person that they deserve to know why I'm not available.
I say that because I do that, and that is something that I need to stop doing. That's true.
Yeah, I'm teaching them that I need to explain myself when really I don't. I just need to let you know what you need to know, which is, this is when I'm available to you. Will that work for you? If they say no, okay, well, let me tell you another day that I'm available. Does that work for you? But I don't need to give a disclaimer. And then a lot of times, another example, sometimes we will answer questions that was never asked.
Such as?
I had one of my friends, she said her supervisor came to her office and say, hey, I didn't see you yesterday. And so my friend just went in explaining all of what she did. And I said, well, what was the question? And she thought about it. She said, I don't think there was one. I said, you told her everything. And she said, I didn't see you yesterday. And so your response would be like, oh, okay, did you need something?
Wow. You know,
Right.
I think we're such people pleasers,
Yeah,
which is
kinda
a
getting
woman,
that.
but which is also a characteristic of women, and particularly Black women, because we always are there to take care of everybody
Yes,
and
yes.
everything,
And be
you
the
know.
problem solver.
Yeah,
Sometimes we want to solve problems when no one asks the question of what they needed help with. I was talking to a mom, and she was talking about how her son came and said, "Hey, Mom, I need to take care of this by the 26th." And so she went into telling him what she needed to do. And I asked him, I said, well, what was this question? This is an adult child that she had.
yeah.
I said, what was the question that your son had? And she said, she thought about it. She said, I don't think he asked me a question.
She
I
just
said-
went automatic into
Problem solving, had everything laid out and those types of things. So us just being conscious of when we're trying to help, when we're trying to give of ourselves, is that what the person need and didn't even ask to do that? Because we can solve every problem doesn't mean we have to.
When do we take the big S off our chest?
Today. Today. One of the biggest things that I learned that has been so freeing is that when people would say, especially like in the job, Sharice, we thought about you. We thought you would be great for this opportunity. This is wonderful. I've learned to say, thank you so much for thinking of me. I really appreciate that, but I'm unavailable to do that assignment.
Yeah.
Now, I may be able to do it, right? I may have the skills to do it, but does it align with anything that I'm doing? If I think of the bigger picture, it doesn't align. I was recently asked to do something outside of my job description. Now, could I have done it? Probably so. But when I think about the larger impact of the consequences of getting myself involved in a situation, I'm like, that's a greater consequence than me taking on we thought you'd be great for this. Well, yeah, I probably would be, but no, this is the risk for me to do that.
So self-awareness
Yes.
is critical. So why don't we take enough time to become more self-aware? Or what do we need to do? I guess is the better way to ask that question. What do we need to do to become more self-aware?
I think we have to let go of the secret. Sometimes there's a secret that we have it together. We know what we're doing. We have it all under control. I can handle it. Meanwhile, we're having meltdowns silently. And I think for ourselves, we need to let go of the secret of saying, I probably could do this, but how much time, physical time, emotional time will this take me? How much even afterwards will it take me to decompress? What is my long-term financial, emotional commitment? And eliminate the secret of saying, no, I can, but I don't want to, or I don't desire to, or it's going to impact something else negatively.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. When I first started Sharing Info, my company, a lot of times I would take on things because I felt like if I didn't stay out there, if I didn't take this on, and so other people can see what I can do, that I wouldn't get the business, you know, and so forth. And it became this wheel.
Right.
So finally I had to just step back and say, wait a minute, let's be a little more strategic about, you know, the types of things that we're going to do, and let's go for more long-term, you know, commitments, things of that nature. Because I don't have to be out doing everybody's dinner or,
Right.
you know, emceeing everybody's event. I really don't. We got a Facebook question from Liz in Hampton. Wants to know, how do you know when it's time to leave a job? Basically, is it okay to handle momentary stress versus continuously handling stressful situations? So how do you balance it? And when do you say, okay, I'm done?
Right. When the impact and the cost gets too high. We all know that we're working because we want benefits, we need the income, and that's why we all want to work. But sometimes the impact of a job gets to the point where you don't even know if you're coming or going anymore. And, you know, everyone has their own, of course, decision to make of when they know what's best for them. But I always encourage people, always pay attention to what's going on. You know when the climate of your job is changing. You know when the energy is shifting, when the conversations are shifting. You're like, something is up, and I don't know what it is. You don't always have to find out to know, you know, maybe this might be time for me to start seeing what else is out there because I feel something different. I feel the energy different in here.
So, but at the same time, if you are in a work situation and you start noticing that meetings that you should be included in.
Yeah.
You're not.
Mm-hmm.
Or you get the last minute notification that, oh, by the way, this has been decided. You go handle it.
Right.
Things of that sort. I mean, at what point is it appropriate to question that and to call it out?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the best way to do that for your own mental health, as well as setting, again, another boundary
Right.
for
Right.
people to know that you're a professional and you're not going to be left out this way.
Right. So this is where we go into what we were talking about early on about like Black women, the culture. If you address it, now you're aggressive, you're being combative, you're being confrontational, those types of things. What I tell people and what I encourage people to do in terms of, do you address it? Do you say something to a supervisor or not? Is, do you think there's going to be a change if you do?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, probably not. Probably not. But if you think there's going to be change, have an open dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
There's supervisors that I've had, one in particular, where I know that if I talk to her, there would be change. Now, how I knew that is because other times when I would talk to her, she would listen, feedback, and there was change. I had evidence to know that there was going to be a change. There's another supervisor, I call that supervisor the minimalist. I knew that supervisor was going to do the least amount as possible. So if I knew if I ever went to ask that supervisor to do more, I would be the problem because supervisor want to do as least work as possible. There's always evidence that's going to tell you when you speak up, if it's going to be received or it's not going to be received.
Mm-hmm.
And use that evidence.
So you also have to understand the dynamics
Yes.
of the workplace.
Yes.
in order to figure that out. Wanda from Virginia Beach says that she wants you to be on a regular basis because we need the information you share. So there you go. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Jackie joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Jackie. You're on the air.
Hi. I
Hi.
was just telling the gentleman who answered the phone for you guys, I'm a retiree. So, I'm a senior citizen.
Uh-huh.
And I have to thank both of you for being candid and wide and articulate, because that's what I used to look for as being a supervisor and a director. And I wish I could have, I had a lot of good staff, but there were some, if they could have heard your dialogue, would have been better staff.
Mm.
So I just basically I'm calling to thank both of you because we need to put it out there, because unfortunately too many times I see young persons, and particularly Black women, who are gung-ho to succeed, but in their efforts to succeed, they don't learn the art of dialogue, true dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times that I've had to come in up the ladder because there were a comment was actually made when I was told many years later. A comment was actually made when I went for my first interview that a person of a different color on my interview panel said after I left the room, "No, we don't want her because she's going to want to be director." Well, I did not. Honestly, did not. I just needed a job. But fast forward decades later, I did become director.
Yeah.
So she was right. I didn't want it, but I became it. But again, I just spread your message because our young women in particular need to hear this. They need to understand the role of integrity. They need to understand that, yes, these attitudes exist, but how are you going to handle it?
Yes. Thank you, Jackie, so much. We really appreciate the phone call. Thank
you.
You want to respond?
Yeah, Jackie, thank you so much for that. When the trainer that I was referring to earlier, she became my mentor since then because she's mentoring me to do what she wanted to do so many years later. And when I recently spoke with her, she said, "Sharice, don't forget to tell them your story." And I said, "What story?" And she said, "When I came to train, they told me there's going to be one person who's going to be difficult." She said, and they were referring to you. And she said, "The interesting part," she said, "is that you gave me no problems over those 3 days. And if anything, you were the best person that I had for those 3 days. And we've kept in contact six years later."
Wow.
And she said, what that told me is how much that they didn't know you. and also how much they didn't get the time to take to get to know you. And when you are operating in integrity and leadership, people who you are holding accountable are going to view you as difficult. And one thing that I strive to do when I built my staff is I'm going to be the barrier between the systems and my staff.
Yeah.
If they didn't need to know about all the systems stuff that I was fighting for them, I wasn't going to bog them down with those things. And when I left that job, I had one employee said to me, she said, Sharice, I knew when you were my supervisor, I knew you had my back, right? And I treated them, and someone else said, you helped us operate in our strengths. You use us in our strengths. The system said that one employee needs to take on 6 different jobs. I said, the system wants the job done. I'm managing it. I get to decide how it gets done. The system's never going to ask me, well, who did the jobs? Is this one person doing the 6 jobs like we told them to do? No, they're like, oh, great. This is all done.
The work is done. Exactly.
Right? And so because I went in already saying I want to protect my own mental health, in order for me to protect my own mental health, I have to take care of my staff's mental health too, which means I have to put them in a position where they are using their strengths. And I would ask them, this is what things that need to get done. Who would like to do that? And people would say, I would enjoy do that. Great. If this person takes the lead on that, that means I need someone else to be a heavy on this other project. So like, I'll do that. Great. We're operating as a team together. But in order to protect my mental health and to help with the mission of the business, I had to also protect their mental health. If someone's going through a hard time, the team got you. How much can you do? What do we need to do to move you forward?
And you're still holding them accountable.
Absolutely.
In that sense. Because one of the other stressors that we have as Black women and Black people, period, is something that we do to ourselves, which is the whole idea of, okay, you're going to have my back because you're Black.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
And so therefore I can slack off because I know Sharice has got my back. That's an additional stress that we should not put on each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I held them accountable. They knew what to expect, and I kept the boundaries. So I will let them know when I'm available, when I'm not available. I didn't have an open door policy.
Really?
No, I didn't tell them that. I didn't say to my staff, I don't have an open door policy, but I didn't have an open door policy. Like, we meet once a week. I meet with you individually once a month. And so if someone would come to my office and say, Sharice, I have this. Oh, okay, great. That's a great topic for our staff meeting on Thursday. Save it there. We'll put it on the agenda. Oh, okay. Okay.
So you really have this boundary thing set.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Really put into place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you deal with someone who previously you may not have set a boundary with? I mean, I know you say look for the positive and place it in the what you can do versus what you can't do. But if there's someone that you deal with on a regular basis and you have not set boundaries previously, when you start to set those boundaries, then their reaction may be less than positive.
Yes. Yes. Right. Yeah.
So how do you keep from internalizing that? Because that could be very easily to go back to,
right.
You know, not setting the boundary.
Yes. We have to allow people to sit in their own disappointment. I would expect someone to be disappointed that I'm not at your beck and call. If I were you, I'd be disappointed too. And I'm going to allow you space to be disappointed, and however you want to be disappointed. You can call somebody, text someone, you can pet a puppy. I'm not particularly sure, but I would like you to do whatever that feels good for you, right? But my boundary remains the same, and that's how we'll keep that. That's okay. I accept your disappointment. I would be too.
Wow.
Yeah.
So even when you set the boundaries with your daughters, it doesn't bother you if they start crying?
No. No. You knew
you
knew the answer to that one, right? No. No. No.
Oh, God. So there was a qualitative research graduate study that was done by Nova Southeastern University, pardon me. And it was about Black women in the workplace. And the 4 central themes that came out of their study were the followings. 1, I have a right to be here. 2, creating networks. 3, no straight line to the top. And 4, I'm thinking about the Black girls coming behind me. Mm-hmm. How much of what we do and how we do it reflect or impact the women that are coming behind us?
Everything, right? And it could feel a lot of pressure of I have to do this, but I think this is where the self-awareness comes, is that we don't let that pressure lead us into perfectionism or taking on the world. I think younger generations, people before us, need to understand the self-awareness and be like, some things I can do and some things I can't do. And some of the feedback I've heard from younger people, I act like I'm their auntie, but I'm really technically not, but I feel like I'm their auntie. It's like they said, I like that you say what you do well, and I like that you say where your challenges are. They have to know that we don't have it all together so that they can be okay with knowing I don't have it all together. But where my strength is, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to shine. I'm going to thrive. Things that is not my strength, I don't need to try to make my strength better. I'm going to start make my weaknesses better. Why do I need to work on my weaknesses? That's what the team is for. I'm not good.
That's why you have other people who have different skills.
Right.
That's what makes a great leader.
Exactly.
Is you bring in the people that can handle the areas where you're not as strong.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's why we have team, and that's why we have support. So do I need to work on my weaknesses? I need to understand them a little bit more so I know when to delegate them, right? And deal with a blind spot that maybe I don't know that I have. But that's why I have a team.
So how do we deal then with the stress of, and I just think this is just unique to the Black community in particular, of we carry the entire community on our shoulders.
Yes.
Everything that we do is reflective of the entire Black community.
Yes.
Which is the most ridiculous thing. But people really... Other people that are not African American believe that, and so that's yet another layer of stress that women have to go through.
Yeah. Sometimes I have. That's not gonna sound racist, but I have Caucasian friends, right? And I have some that are really will ask me, Sharice, I want to make sure I'm not offensive. I want to make sure that I understand this, help me with this. And I am more than willing to share from my perspective and my experience, or just having an open dialogue with them. I cannot speak for all Black people. I don't know, but I can speak from my experience and just their own education. And I'm more than happy to have those conversations. Now, when people say, well, why do you Black people? Now I know you're not really asking me a question. You really want to tell me something. Right. And I get to decide if I want to listen to what you want to tell or not tell. Put on a social media post. I don't know. Someone's probably interested. But right now, if there's a question of in curiosity, absolutely, I will definitely answer.
It's and I handle things the same way. I remember very, very vividly during George Floyd. I got a letter from a listener who wanted me to help navigate the racism they found inside their family. And I had asked on the air for people to give me some space because I was just as affected and triggered as everyone else, and was trying to come to kind of grips with how I was going to handle it. So all the letters and stuff that were coming in, I would say to people, just give me some time, I will respond. Well, this person said I didn't respond quickly enough and wrote a scathing letter, to say, how dare you not respond to me? I didn't have a problem setting that boundary.
Right.
Not whatsoever. But it's this whole expectation that we're just going to do, and unfortunately it spreads beyond that in the workplace and sometimes at home, where people just expect that you're going to do what they want you to do
right then and there,
right away,
right
then and there, and you don't have to do that.
Nope.
Okay. Well, we got 4 minutes left in this hour that has flown by. So if you find yourself totally stressed, what are some things that we can do, very concrete things that people can do to let go of some of the stress and to be able to set those boundaries and to get back on track?
So some things I would encourage you to manage your stress. One is give yourself permission to take a break. And during that break, I want you to feel what is actually stressing me? I don't want you to be in your head. I want you to be in your body. Right now, I can't think. That's what your break is focusing on. I just want to think. How do I think? I need to breathe. I need to get some fresh air. My only goal during this break is to be able to think. I'm not eating well. Then that's what your focus is, right? And maybe it's not, what do I eat? And let me go try something. I like this food. Is what about me that body's feeling the stress that I don't even desire to eat? My heart is racing. My hands are trembling. That's what the focus is on. So sometimes if we try to manage stress by solving a larger problem, I would encourage us to take a step back and solve small problems. Because one is that we have to prove that we can do something, that we're not stuck in a situation. And if we're trying to solve a larger problem, should I stay at my job? Should I go? That's a large problem. And that comes with a lot of variables. Let's step back, because if you decide to leave your job, I want you to do it in peace. It's because you understand what your peace is, right? This job is causing me where I can't focus. My blood pressure is high. I'm having some medical concerns. If I take a step back and take a break, use my leave, go on some vacation, how's my body feel?
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, when you saying take a break, you mean take a real break, like several days or whatever time you can afford to take? Is that
whatever time you can afford to take? So when I started for that 3 years, my break was, I wasn't even taking lunch breaks. So my break in that moment was, Sharice, go take your break. Get up off this desk, leave out of this building, go for a walk. At that point, it was my break. Then it went to let me use my leave a little bit. Now I would prove to myself, you know what, you can do hard things. You can take time away and nothing bad happened. I had to prove that to myself. Then I started to look at, say, okay, what do I want my life to look like? Now I'm in a position to think long term now, but I had to build up to that. I had to build up to
baby steps.
Yeah, to think long term.
Baby steps. Are there some other things? I mean, like, people talk about yoga, meditation, prayer, things of that sort. Should you start incorporating those if you're not doing it already?
I want you to try anything that you're doing now, do something different. Change your routine. My husband used to laugh at me. He said, why does it take you the same amount of time to go to bed as it take you to get ready for the day? And I was like, I don't know. I really didn't know the answer to that question, right? But sometimes when I'm like, Sharice, be a rebel. Do you have to do your entire routine to go to bed? Can I get some sleep if I cut some things out? I started to cut some things out, right? And I'm like, you know what? Nothing bad happened. I don't have to be so rigid, right, in my routine. So whatever you're doing that you're like, I have to do it this way. This is how I do it. Well, do you?
Yeah.
Can we try something different? Step outside of your comfort zone. This is where your confidence builds.
Sharice Josie, we don't waste time over here. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are going to have you back frequently, because this is some really just very satisfying and down-to-earth advice that people can use. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Me. Absolutely. And we hope something that we've shared today resonates with you and helps you on your mental wellness journey. You can check out this show or any other Another View program on our website, anotherviewradio.org, or you can find it any place you go to get your podcast. Next week on Another View, it's the Another View Roundtable. Need I say more? Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Jordan Christie is our audio engineer. And Dr. Barry Graham answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone. And let's get together again next Thursday at noon for Another View.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever, whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.